Hello. So I got sent a charge controller. I was sent this by Bateria Power. I believe I'm pronouncing that correct. They reached out, asked if I wanted to review this charge controller and to do the video on it. So they haven't paid me to say anything about it. They've just sent me it out to get a look at it. And it's pretty good. So I've had the box open so far, a little bit of tinkering around with it, but I figured I would give you the unboxing experience because the thing that YouTube does, I guess. So it's an MPPT charge controller. I am also going to go over a little bit of like solar power charging basics. I'll put some timestamps below, so if there is, if you don't care about that and want to just skip to see this, you can skip to see that. So I'll put timestamps in there so you can get to the part that you want to see. But first of all, I'll open this up and then I'll explain what all this works, how solar power circuitry is usually set up and all that good stuff. So opening it up, we have our user manuals. This one is very, very straightforward to set up. This is basically here just to manage the charging of a battery. I'll get to that in a wee second. And this is the unit here, you can see. So we've got a little LCD display, battery level indicators, also a LED to indicate what battery it thinks it's hooked up to. You can set that manually with a little button there. And then we have, might be hard to see in the camera, but there's one here that's labeled input. So this is the solar power in, and then the output, which is to the battery. And then we also get some connectors in here, which have already got these nice connectors on them so that we can them up. So we can connect these to solar panels and one to the battery. And we also have a little adapter clip, which is nice, and some screws to mount this to a wall or some other such device. So let's talk a little bit about solar charging. Solar power seems fantastic. So I want to stress that this is made for a larger solar array. I'll get into the actual specs of what this can handle in a second. For the purposes of demonstration, I'm going to be using quite a small scenario or small scale kit. But solar panel seems fantastic because this gets light, takes light and converts it into electricity. Okay, so it takes light from the sun, converts it to electricity, and we can then use that electricity. It basically free energy. Now, there is an argument that all electricity and all power is just a different flavor of solar power, because wind affected by the sun, tides affected by, well, the moon, but same difference. And all of the oil, coal, all that stuff is created because there was organic material around, and that wouldn't have been around without the sun. There's an argument for that, but that's a topic for another day. That's a whole other thing. But effectively free energy. The downside with solar is that it only gets power when it's being lit up. This is a 12-volt solar panel. This is a little one that you can get for your car that's meant to sit in your dashboard next to the cigarette lighter, the 12-volt connector in there, and is meant to trickle charge your battery if your car's sitting for any length of time, just to make sure that it doesn't run completely flat. So this is very low wattage. I'm not going to get into electronic basics, but effectively whenever you have a solar panel, there's a couple of things you need to consider: the amperage, the voltage, and the wattage. The amperage and voltage generally is just going to be, what does this output? You chain multiple them together, you could get higher voltages. There is benefits and downsides to both. Plenty of videos out there as to when you would use a higher voltage. As a rule of thumb is typically if you have a larger solar array, you would pair them together so that you get a higher voltage. It brings the amperage down. I'm not going to get into that right now. And then wattage. Wattage is probably the one that you want to consider if you're doing smaller projects or fiddling about with maybe putting solar panels into a motorhome or something DIY that you're doing. Wattage is probably the thing that you want to pay attention to, because it's roughly it's the amount of power that solar panel could generate for you. You've seen any power banks that you've got, they're typically done in watt hours or sometimes amp hours, and there's versions online to do that. And it's basically how much potential energy does this have to give you, and that's something that you need to consider whenever you're putting in these things in. If you think of like electric heaters as well, they're typically in kilowatts, 1,000 watt heater, electric heater, whatever. That's the kind of things that you would need to consider whenever you're starting to put these things in. But as I said, the benefits is this gets X amount of power when it's in full sunlight. But the downside is what happens whenever it doesn't have full sunlight. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hook this up to a multimeter, and I'm hopefully going to show you if you can see it on the camera. Yeah, you should be able to see that, hopefully. Let me just tilt it slightly. Oh, is how much power this is actually producing, or how much electricity related to the voltage. So my hands are sort of covering it at the minute, but you can see inside that is about 5 volts ish, but you can see that it's jumping up and down. Okay, the reason that it's jumping up and down is because I'm covering part of it. Okay, so not all the cells are getting good electricity. We're also inside. It does work from any kind of UV light or any kind of light, so like fluorescent lights or torches do work, but they're not as efficient. If I move out of the way, you can see that it's went up. It's hitting now about going up to about 9 volts peak ish. And if I move my hand away further, we get possibly a little bit more. But you can see that it's not stable. Like, that is jumping up and down all over the place. For an electronics project, that is not good. That's a difficult thing to plan around, is to having that fluctuation in power. So solar panels are rarely used on their own unless you have something that can run at a much lower voltage. But there's usually some circuitry in between that helps stabilize it or manage the output of this. One of the easiest way to level this out and manage the output is to use a battery. And so instead of powering the thing directly from a solar panel, in that you power it from a battery and then you charge the battery from the solar panel. Now, this is all well and good, but batteries also don't like unstable voltage. If I connected this would not charge well because it's unstable, because it's jumping up and down. It'd be very slow. It would it's not going to control how much amperage, so how much power is this trying to chuck into this at any given time. Batteries don't like that. Some you can get away with it. Lead acid batteries like this, you can be fairly rough with them, but lead acid batteries are heavy. Their capacity isn't always great. They're more of an older technology, is lead acid batteries. There are a lot more newer, better kinds of batteries, like the gel ones or the LifePos, that are better for these kinds of setups. But with these, you can be a bit rough and ready with them. But 9 times out of 10, you're going to want something that helps manage how this is charged. And this is where something like this comes in, an MPPT solar charge controller. There's a couple of different types of charge controllers. There's the MPPT, which is a newer technology. It's very efficient. And then there's ones like this, which are PWM charge controllers, so pulse width modulation charge controllers. And these are cheaper, but a lot less efficient, so you don't get as much power from the solar panel actually being converted into energy into the battery. Depending on your use case, this might be okay. If it's a very small, one panel thing, you might be okay with that. In the case of this one, you probably wouldn't want to use this because it isn't going to generate a lot of power, so then a lot of that's going to be wasted. And then also in massive, very large scale solar arrays, so if you have like solar panels on your house, your garage, whatever, you're then not necessarily going to want to use these, because then a lot of that power is going to be wasted. So the MPPT is quite a good solution to that, because it is damn near 100% efficient. It's not, nothing is ever 100% efficient, but it is very, very close. They're newer technology, they just work a hell of a lot better. Downside being they can be a bit more expensive. Checking online, the Bateria power ones are actually not too bad price-wise. They're actually quite reasonably priced. They haven't paid me to say that, by the way, just that was from me looking. Something that you may notice difference-wise is all these connectors on this one. This is not unique to a PWM charge controller. It's just some versions have this, some versions don't. This is made just to manage the control of the charging to the battery. This one is also managing the load. Bateria Power do have ones that also manage the load as well, and I do like those those kinds of charge controllers, because what you do is you connect solar panels into one end, battery into the other, and then whatever you're wanting to power out of there. Nice thing about that is that it can actually protect the battery, so it can stop the battery from getting too depleted. The battery drops below a certain voltage or a certain power level, it can then stop sending power out, so that the battery gets time to be charged up again and it doesn't go into a deep discharge. That's quite a nice thing. As I said, there is flavors of that. This is just a cheap Chinese one that I had kicking about from an older project. I just wanted to call out the two different types there and some of the other different configurations that can come out. So this handles charging to the battery, and as I said before, it does have different kinds of battery modes, because a gel pass battery, AGM, which is lead acid and others, and then the LiFePO batteries, they all need to be charged in a slightly different way in order to make the most out of the batteries and charge them as efficiently as possible. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hook these up, and I'm going to show you what it looks like whenever it's all running, and a little bit of how to configure this so that it's operating at its best. Okay, so I've got all of the connectors connected to the various things. So I've got one on the battery and one on the solar panel here, so that we're going to connect these together. Something that is worth mentioning is that you need to connect, for this one anyway, you need to connect the battery first and then the charge controller, because it needs the power from the battery just to sort of get everything set up, and then you connect the solar panel to it. So that's just something to be aware of. So the output side is the battery side. That's the one that you want to connect first. So let's get this hooked up, and hopefully we will see some lights. We can see that it is picking up 12.2 volts. Might be difficult to see there. Yeah, it's actually not too bad. And it's showing that the battery is 75% charged, but it's also picking up that it's a gel battery. Now this obviously doesn't have anything to detect what this battery is. It's just, that's what it says. So we need to change this to tell it that it is an AGM battery or a lead acid battery. Follow the instructions here. It's saying that we need to enter set mode. So if I do that, very long press that, the battery light started to flash, and then if I hit that again, it's then going to go across to AGM, which is what we want. And then let me see, I believe it's just a long press again, and there we go. We've now told it that it is an AGM battery. It might be difficult to see here, so apologies, but if I press this again, you'll see that we've got temperature shows up as well, so it shows the ambient temperature of the room or of the unit. And then another press here shows any error codes that are on there, and the error codes are all documented in their little sheet, so I would recommend having that stuck somewhere to know what those error codes are. You can also Google them. So what I'm going to do now is connect up the solar panel, and something to be aware of, this charge controller can take a variety of voltages from 12 volts up onto 48, I believe, but let me just double check and make sure that is correct. Yes, so it can take 12 volt or 48 volt. Sorry, not 48 volt, 24 volt. So 12 volt or 24 volt is what this can take, and up to 20 amps. This one is the 20 amp version. You can also get a 10 amp version, which is a little bit cheaper. Again, that just depends how much you're wanting to actually run off this. If you're running small projects or little things like, a single device off of the solar power, it'll be plenty. But if you're running a lot of solar panels or a lot of batteries, then you're going to need more amperage on there. They do have a chat functionality, so you can ask them if you're not sure what you might need. Right, so now let's hook up the actual solar panel. Okay, we've got the panels connected. Let me move out of the way. Not getting any charging. Now, the reason we're not getting any charging is because this solar panel is too small. So give me 2 seconds, and I'll swap this out for a bigger one that I have. This is just virtue of this solar panel, I wasn't sure whether this would work because it's only generating a very small amount of power, that, you know, it wouldn't necessarily be picked up. So let me swap this out for the bigger one, and I'll be back in a second. Okay, so I've swapped it to the bigger panel, but still wasn't getting enough light in here because, again, it's not sunlight. It is actually quite a sunny day outside, so I'm going to push it outside and show you it working there. So apologies, the audio is going to change a little bit because I'm going to need to record it on my phone because I can't move that camera. So I'll be back in 2 seconds and show you that. Of course, as soon as I come outside, the sun goes away, but there's still enough. So we've got it connected here. You can see that it is charging 12.6 volts at half an amp. And even this light's flashing here to show us that it is actually charging. This is running this is about a 20 watt panel, allegedly, but I got it cheap, so who actually knows. But I did see that in full power or in full sunlight, it was getting like a full amp power going in. So from that panel, I know using the other charge controller that I showed before, the PWM one, it wasn't getting anywhere near that, maybe half that on a good day was what I was getting through. So the efficiency of this compared to a PWM charge controller is just miles better. So yeah, that's everything for this. I mean, I was actually really surprised at how efficient an MPPT is compared to the likes of the PWM ones. Like, this was maybe getting on like full sunlight half an amp, whereas this one was doing it in, like, you know, it was cloudy whenever I did that video there. In full sunlight it was getting a full amp. This, you know, like half that at least. So yeah, really impressed with the actual difference between MPPTs and PWMs. This is a solid wee unit, and they were quite cheap. I was double checking the price online there for the 10 amp version of this. It was about £30, fairly inexpensive. And there is a version as well that has Bluetooth on it, so you can actually tether it to your phone and see, you know, what the voltage is, what the amperage is, power levels, all that good stuff, which is quite nice. Then they have slightly bigger ones that also have the load output as well, which is nice. Then you can, you know, control everything from one circuit. You're not having to do something additional. But yeah, I think this is a solid wee unit. If you have any questions about it, anything like that, let me know. I'll put links to all the different bits and pieces down below as well. But really looking forward to this. I'm going to be doing another video on this because this is going to go to Farset Labs. You have seen me do a lot of robot videos out of there. We're going to put this in the workshop with that solar panel that I had outside, and we're going to have this hooked up to a battery, and we're going to see, you know, what we can run. It would be really nice to have the whole workshop, or a large portion of the workshop, running from solar power. I think that would be quite a cool project. So we're going to be this is going to go over there. I'm going to maybe speak to Bateria Solar, see if they'll maybe send me out one of the bigger ones as well at some point. So if you want to see what that one looks like, like and subscribe and do all that stuff and make this video do well, so that I can take that back to them and be like, look, the video did well. And so you could maybe send us more stuff to make the workshop solar ready. Because one of the suggestions was to run a 3D printer from purely solar power, which would be really cool to do. But we'll see if we can get there. So yeah, if you have any questions, anything like that, or, you know, anything you think I could have elaborated on, put it in the comments below and let me know. And I'll see you later.